What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Challenge Conversations. I love having these each and every Thursday with amazing people from our Dempsey Challenge and our Dempsey Center community. None more so, and this is not to downplay previous guests, but none more so than today's guest, who is someone you will all recognize. I've coined him as the face of Maine. We'll get into that a little bit and see how he feels about it. But this is someone who needs no introduction. So I'm going to stop right there and bring him in. Lee Nelson, how are you, sir?
I am fine. How are you, Travis?
I'm really well. Now, this is really interesting to be on the other side of an interview from you. Recently,
Mm.
we did the piece together where my story from July, my Calendar Club story, went to air, and it was an amazing experience to have you run through that interview and put that together. So, how does it feel for you to be on the other side of the camera today?
Frankly, it feels fine. I've been interviewed plenty of times as well. So no, it feels fine. I had to laugh when I saw my name and then comma the face of Maine. I think other people would maybe take issue with that, but I'm fine with it for sure.
Well, I'm going to stand on my own island if that's the case and say that that's how I feel. I think that you've done an incredible job of joining people in their living rooms, in their spaces for quite a long time now. So tell me about how that all begun for you. Your love of Maine is often well expressed. So tell us kind of a little bit about your background and journey to Maine, and then joining people in their living rooms, every day for quite a long time now.
Well, I popped out of my mom in Maine. I was born in Lewiston in the hospital, which is now Central Maine Med. And so I'm from Maine. I'm a Mainer originally. I did kind of grow up in the Boston area. My father was an anchorman as well, so he decided to jump markets. So started in Maine. He worked in Boston. He worked in New York, and so we moved around a little bit. I grew up in Boston, and I met Cindy, my wife, when I took my first on-air job, which was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, in 1986, and I worked there for about I want to say I was there about 7 months, and we were going out, and I was like, look, I like you, but I don't really like this place so much, so let's head back to the Northeast. She'd been an Army brat, so she was fine to go wherever.
Yeah.
So I coaxed her to come up here, and that was 1988.
Wow.
Been here ever since.
Yeah.
So
What do you think that's kind of done for you as far as like having the roots in Maine and growing up and really growing your family and raising a family? It's an amazing place to be from and to live. So kind of how has that, dictated the way that you live your life? And I know you enjoy the outdoors, and you tell me a little bit about how Maine has kind of been in your roots and really forged your personality.
well, that's a good question. I mean, Maine is honesty. I think Maine is integrity. I hope I have those qualities as well. Maine is down to earth. Hopefully, putting on no airs. So I guess if hopefully I am those things, and if I am, Maine Maine's a good reason why.
Yeah.
And my family was all from here, and even when I didn't live here, we'd come back all the time. My one side of my family had a place in Stockton Springs. The other side of my family had a place in Poland Spring. So I was a fixture here even when I didn't live here.
Yeah, amazing. Now you do take your role and responsibility to bring the news to folks and to really tap into and share the amazing stories that happen across the state. Tell me about that. Tell me about how that responsibility is played out, and how you love and feel about that role and responsibility that you take.
Well, it's been a privilege to have been on the TV in Maine for so many years, and it's 31 years now. And I mean, it's humbling because, and it's funny. I'll tell you, I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit. If 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it's interesting. Pretty much everywhere Cindy and I would go, people would know us. If it was the tippy top part of Aroostook County, or down in York County, or into New Hampshire, even up into the Atlantic provinces in Canada.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I'm experiencing the change in viewership, in that I go a lot of places and people don't know who I am now. The older folks do, and the younger ones don't. So it shows you the change in viewership and the way things have kind of migrated online. and have changed, and that's fine. I mean, things change. I'm fine with change.
Yeah.
But for those years, and we were, I did the morning show for 30 years or 29 and a half years, and that the audience was gigantic, and it was really nice because people were so friendly. Everywhere we would go, people like, hey, Lee, hey, Cindy, how you doing? Come on over, have a beer,
Yeah.
So it was a really kind of a friendly family feel. And as far as bringing the stories, it's been a privilege because, I mean, every major story that's happened here in the last 30 years, I've been part of.
Yeah.
Be it the ice storm, other hurricanes, presidential elections, you name it, I've been right there. So it's kind of like I haven't necessarily been part of history, but I've been right there close. So.
Yeah. Do any of those moments stand out? Is there anything that kind of stands on top of the pile as far as memorable moments that you've brought to life or you've shared, or the news that you've been able to share? Is there one that really stands out as a highlight for you?
I don't know. Well, the ice storm was pretty darn huge because people didn't have power for weeks.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because so Angus King was governor at the time, and he actually for a while had his emergency headquarters here at our TV station, we were just on the air wall to wall all day long, making sure people who did have power had all the information they needed. And actually back then, by just this kind of fluke of the airwaves, we were also on the FM radio dial. Right. And boy, did we bum out when that changed. But and so even people who didn't have power could put batteries in their old transistor radios and hear us, and we could give them updates. So maybe if there's one thing, it might be the ice storm. But there's been a whole lot of things.
Yeah, I'm sure. If you're not working on a book already, you should. I would love to. I think there's a unique and interesting history there from your standpoint that you could bring to life.
Yeah, that's true. There's it's so funny though. I'm not the only old guy who's been doing this forever. I mean, Pat Callahan has, my wife Cindy has, Rob Caldwell. Bill Green just retired. He'd been doing this for 40 something years.
Yeah.
I'm a newbie compared to him. So, but yeah, sure. I've had some unique experiences, and doing the early show was really interesting too, because of course I was waking up at 2 a.m. And there were great advantages and great disadvantages to that schedule. The great advantages were that I was with my kids all the time. And cooked every meal for them at night, coached their teams, put them to bed at night, all that stuff, which was fabulous.
Yeah.
The bad side of that schedule is fairly obvious, that I was waking up at 2 a.m. every day.
Yeah.
So, but I changed that about a year and a half ago and moved to the evening.
Now, you did talk about some other changes. You talked about going online. You talked about a few of those things, but one of the recent changes is obviously COVID and the ability to meet people and get to hear their stories and share their stories. A lot of it is happening online and through Zoom, like the rest of the world. So, you're in a unique place where everything's moving online already. You're now having to change the way that you do your job. Tell us about some of those shifts for you over the last 6 to 7 months and how you actually bring your job to life.
Well, the changes have been astronomical and so quick. So when it all happened and everything started to lock down, we actually did broadcast from home for 2 weeks. But there needs to be somebody here in the building. And because my wife is also an anchor and my co-anchor, and they could get a twofer, they decided that we should come right back to work. So she and I only worked from home for 2 weeks, and we've been back to here ever since.
Yeah.
But even now, I mean, I'm in the building now, in the TV building now, and there's probably only 8 other people in here, and we probably have 120 employees or something. So everybody else is still working from home. So the video editing is done from home. The interview is largely done either via Zoom, or, for instance, when I was interviewing you the other day, we just stood far enough apart that it made it okay. But most everything's on Zoom. But the fact that we can even broadcast from home and edit from home, and I mean, it's only because the technology allows that. If this had happened 20, 25 years ago, I don't know what we would have done. But the part that I don't like, I mean, there's lots I don't like, but it's funny when you have a co-anchor beside you in the studio, you play off them and you read their body language, and when they're pausing, you can jump in, and when you're pausing, they can jump in. When you're on a screen like you and I are, actually, this is a very clear screen though, but it's not like being in the same room, so you can't necessarily read their body language, and so it does add a little bit of I'm going to wait and see what they do. It's not as comfortable.
Yeah.
But as far as storytelling, I think we've just kept rolling.
Yeah. Is there a piece of it as well where there's an energy in the newsroom? There's people around. There's a buzz. There's an excitement. We know that something big is happening, and now it feels like it could just be, a little stale. There's 8 people in the building. It probably feels empty.
Okay, here's a great example of that. So I'm actually filling in on the late news this evening. Okay, so I will do the early evening shows. I'll go grab a bite to eat, and I'll come back. When I come back in this evening, 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'll be the only one here. Right. And I'll be the only one here till about 10:30 when the producer, who's been producing the show from home, comes in so they can be in the control room. So yes, there's no, there's none of the camaraderie. And well, I mean, maybe there's a little bit right now because there's 5 other people upstairs in the newsroom, but no, it's that's all gone right now. It's all gone. And the producers of all the shows are on as kind of this constant Zoom all day long, but it's not the same as having somebody beside you. And yeah, the energy that you talked about is largely not here right now. Yeah. Sadly.
Yeah. Well, I think great segue to the challenge and the energy that we have when we all get together in Lewiston, and we have an amazing weekend. We have a couple of beers. There's the lobsters. There's so much energy and excitement. And obviously, we've now had to move to the virtual challenge for this year. Tell me about some of your experiences with challenge. You've been a fixture there. You've been the MC. You've got some amazing stories and memories from there. Tell us some of those that stand out for you from challenge weekends in the past.
Well, last year was really, really fun. And yeah, I've been hosting it. Cindy and I have been hosting it, I don't know, not the entire time, but maybe 8 years. And hosting has always been fun. And it seemed like every year, like the first year, I kind of went not knowing anything. And I know a little bit about what this center had been doing and everything. But that was kind of the first couple of years were really learning years. But fast forward to last year, it was really, really fun because Patrick and I had this little game we were playing that we were going to ride the 50 miles out to Land's End, in the end of that Bailey Island or Orr's Island. And it was a race. Of course, it wasn't really, but we kind of played it off that way. We did end up huffing and puffing up a lot of hills and rolling in there exactly at the same time. So neither one won and neither one lost. And then we jumped in a Porsche and got a ride back. And everyone was like, wow, you guys did 100 miles? And we were like, well, actually, we only did 50. And we got a really luxurious ride back to Lewis.
Yeah. I remember fondly. So I wasn't able to make the start of the ride. Our daughter was up all night with a fever. I was really concerned. So I ended up coming up later on and did my own little out and back to cheer people along. But I remember the rumors starting that Lee and Patrick are coming back. And there were so many people who joined you on that ride that didn't realize they had to find their own way back. So we had to shuttle people back as well because they weren't prepared for the return trip. So that's quite funny.
Yeah. Sorry, you have another 50 miles you have to ride. I'm going to hop in this Porsche.
Yeah. What about some of the other impactful stories? We hear and see touching stories all the time about people who may be participating for in memory of loved ones or in solidarity for someone who's going through the challenge.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Tell me about some of those that may stand out for you.
Well, year in, year out, you see some of the same folks. And that's really cool because they're running or riding in memory of their mom or their dad or their uncle or their sister or whoever. And they come up and they say hi and they tell you who they're riding for. And then you see them again the next year and the next year. And so it's great to have new people. And we always want new people. But there's this amazing, big, huge core of people who come back every year. And the thing about cancer is that everybody is touched by cancer. Everyone. You can't possibly not know someone who had cancer or passed away from cancer. And so it creates this community. And people really want to share their stories, and that is the weekend to share your stories. Not that it's not appropriate at other times. And even being at the Dempsey centers, it's great because people will come up to you too, and they'll tell you why they're there. And I will tell you one of the things that impacted me, not so much at the challenge, but being at the facilities, is watching somebody come in for the very first time. And I've seen it a few times where they come in and they're very tentative, and they speak very quietly, and they're nervous. And then the people who greet them are just, take that away, make them comfortable right away, and then, lead them to the appropriate program. It was interesting. We were, myself and a couple of the board members were in the elevator in Lewiston probably a year ago now, and we were riding down to the street, and we were with a woman who had, come a few times and clearly was emotional about how wonderful the place was, and she started to cry, and but just in happy tears, just how thankful she was. And it was just kind of a moment in time, and honestly, she didn't even say her name, but we had badges on, so she knew we were with the facility, and it was amazing. It's the challenge, the centers, when you're meeting people, there's this kind of unspoken invitation to tell your story, and that it's okay, and that you're with friends, and it's just such a comfortable, nice thing. That's a huge reason why I'm involved.
Yeah, and you touched on your involvement there, which I will come back to. But we did have Amy, who shared a beautiful story that I really want to highlight here. So Amy had mentioned how one of her favorite memories of the challenge was when her son Ethan was accepting his top fundraiser award. Mentioned that he was $20 away, and then yourself and Patrick dug in and gave $20 to each to Ethan. So thanks for sharing that memory, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. I remember that really well. It's so funny. We're always competing, because it was like, who can get that 20? He only needed $20, I believe, and we both had a 20 in our pocket. So it was like we were like wrestling through our pockets, trying to race up to be the one who put him over the edge. Yes, I remember that very, very well. That was at the Champions event.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's beautiful. What a great story. One thing that you did mention was just around community and that ability to share your story and that invitation to share your story. And as we've moved to a virtual challenge this year, obviously there's an element of that that's been taken away. We're not being able to get together. So we're really working hard, us and the team and the board and the support of the board, of what can we do to replicate some of those experiences on the weekend, where we will have that ability to create community and have people be able to share and feel supported. Because that's one of the things with COVID is there is this isolation. There is not the ability to feel as supported as you would have been before. So what are some of the advice for people you have, thoughts that you have around how people can engage and feel a part of the community, even though we are separate?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, if you can take part in the challenges that we're doing online, that would be fabulous. I will tell you that a simple email to the organization will go a long way. People read them, people respond. Maybe we could have people shoot videos too and send them to us. I know some people are doing that on their own, but even put out a call, and have a platform where we could just share a lot of stories, because people do want to talk about it, with other like-minded people who've had similar experiences. And yes, it is hard. I mean, I know you do a million Zooms, and I do a million Zooms, and it's not the same. I will say, though, that I don't think it's going to be like this in a year. Confident that we'll be back to normal. Although some of the advantages that kind of were thrust upon us during this time will stay, but that in-person thing is hard to beat. It's really hard to beat at the challenge and in the centers.
Yeah. Now tell me a little bit more. Well, firstly, thank you for acknowledging that around the opportunity to share your story. We have made the call out for people to submit videos, share their why. We have the virtual honor wall.
Yes.
People can share that. So we'll send links. If you haven't seen that information, we will share those, but it is an opportunity, and no one's judging. You don't have to be a TV news presenter to have your video shared or present or create your own video. There's no judgment. It's cathartic to share your story. It's an ability to just reach out into the community and know that people are there to support you. So take that opportunity. you had mentioned your involvement on the board. You are a board member of the Dempsey Center. Tell me about how that came about, how long that's been going, and how serious you take that role in being able to help with the strategic direction of the Dempsey Centers.
Well, I take it very seriously. I've been on the board about a year and a half, and I know the organization's been around for a while, but actually the board really hasn't, because we haven't been a 501c3 all that long, and recently merged, as a lot of people will know, with a cancer community center in South Portland. Recently, like in the last couple of years. So there was a board for the Cancer Community Center, but Lewiston really didn't have a board. And this is kind of a conglomeration of the two. It's a very small one. You know, my wife sits on a board with about 35 members, and we're 11, I think. Right. So there's a lot of work for everyone. Fundraising, recruiting, getting the word out about various things. And how did it come about? Well, many of you know Wendy Tardif. 2 or 3 years ago, I had a really kind of a lengthy conversation, or 2 or 3, with Wendy about some ideas that I had, and I guess they kind of stuck in her head. And lo and behold, Patrick asked me if I wanted to be on the board, and I just said absolutely. And yeah, it's really wild too, because we had a retreat in November, and we laid out basically what we thought was going to happen in the next year, and then in March that plan just blew up. Yeah. Just blew up. But with help from a ton of people, you included, things are going really smoothly, given the fact that we're in this particular stage.
Yeah, and I think to add some color and clarity to that, around, obviously, Dempsey Connects is a virtual online programming service that we rolled out during COVID that was on the strategic plan for years to come, that had to obviously shift. The Dempsey Challenge, we shifted to be this online virtual event. And some of the plans, I remember being on a strategic kind of steering committee call early in the year, and we're talking about things like Strava. We were talking about things like Zwift. We were talking about how do we have those be in addition to regular challenge weekend, and it was kind of thrust upon us, and we took that opportunity and ran with it, obviously. And a lot of those things are coming to life, which is exciting. But I think the ability to adapt and change and be flexible and take opportunities as they come has been fantastic to see and witness from an inside point of view. And I think it's really exciting for the future of the center.
Oh, no question.
Well.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, again, things were thrust upon us, but it's a nimble organization. It did an about face really, really quickly, and I think if other nonprofits have struggled, that's where they struggled. They weren't able to shift and change as quickly as we were. I don't mean to make it sound like everything is rosy, but we're in a good position in comparison with a lot of other nonprofits who have been really, really struggling. And fundraising clearly is super, super challenging, because you like to do that in person. You want to have a relationship, like a really good, close relationship with the people who are giving you funds in memory of someone, or because they want to help. You don't want to just take the check and run. You want to create a relationship, and that's a lot harder in these times.
Agreed. And I think that, and that's a great segue actually to today being Double the Donation Day. So today, and there's still spots available. So if you are a registered participant with the Dempsey Challenge, and you raise $50, we'll match that. Thank you to an anonymous donor who will match those. So those funds will appear on your account next week. So your $50 is now worth $100, which is great, and it creates some excitement and some buzz. I think one thing that I noticed through my own fundraising is bringing people along for the journey, telling them why, sharing the story, and it's about consistency. And a lot of times people may be nervous to ask, but if you don't ask, you don't get. And a lot of times people are actually grateful and thankful that you did ask and you did give them the opportunity, because it's such an amazing cause that they feel strongly enough that they want to get involved. So
yes, there's no question at all. It's interesting. I was already involved when this happened, but another kind of example, if I may.
Yes.
I lost my mom to cancer 3 years ago, and I wasn't on the board yet, but I was already involved, and she was, I mean, so my father passed away when I was 18. She was 47 years old. And she didn't ever remarry or anything. And she was such a strong person, and she held our family, and she was so independent. She was so amazing, and she lost a little of that power when she got her cancer. And hers was aggressive and really, really fast. And unfortunately, she was in so much pain, we really couldn't get in the car and go to the centers.
Yeah.
But what I think the centers are doing too is giving people back some of that power over their lives, which she had forever until she was 83, and then she lost that power. And boy, I want to tell you that the cancer pissed her off, but the loss of control pissed her off even more.
Right.
Because that's just who she was. And but what's happening at the Dempsey centers does give a little of that power back. And boy, you can't underestimate that in terms of your wellness, up here.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And I think you're right. And to reiterate, I think that so much of a cancer diagnosis and going through that experience and that feeling and loss of power, it is really hard. And unless you've been through it, it's hard to understand. And I think the biggest thing that we're trying to do with your help and with other help is spread the awareness of the center and the work that we do, so that when time comes, it's not something that people have to necessarily go and research or find out about. It's kind of ingrained in them that if you're in Maine and you experience cancer, or you're having to manage the impact of cancer, you know that the Dempsey Center is there to support you. And it's an open invitation, an open door to come and be a part of our community and take some of that power back.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting. I think we collectively have done a pretty good job of that. But you can't stop. You got to keep going.
Yeah.
But it's funny too, because a lot of people now know about my involvement. They don't know me from TV, but they know me from Dempsey Center too. So I guess I'm out there annoying them with the message.
Yeah.
But get used to it, because I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Love it. Well, we appreciate you for being a part of our organization. We appreciate you being a supporter of the challenge year after year. Now, I know that you have this passion for health and wellness, and you're really, diving into that with both feet as well. And tell me a little bit about that and kind of what that means for you, and what that means for you coming Challenge Weekend. What are you going to take on? What's your plan for Challenge Weekend?
Well, I'm still trying. I mean, I'm going to ride. I can run, I can ride, but I'm kind of waiting for them to tell me what my job is. And when I find out what my job is, that'll determine exactly when and where and what I'm going to do. But I've ridden for quite a few years. I do ride regularly. I run occasionally, but I've been a health nut forever. I've been lifting weights for 40 years. Got really serious about what I eat about 5 years ago. I'm a certified personal trainer, certified nutrition coach, third degree black belt, basketball player. I'm a fitness nut, no question about it.
Yeah, love it. Well, Lee, this has been fantastic. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the other side of the interview with you. I look forward to many, many more conversations that we'll have, whether in the public forum or privately in the future. So appreciate all the work you do, and I look forward to seeing you on Challenge Weekend in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it sounds good. And let me just say again, the amazing feat that you pulled off in that calendar club, truly inspirational. So thank you for that, and thank you for telling your story, because it was pretty amazing, mind-blowing actually.
Well, yeah, thank you. That means a lot. It was a very amazing month. The memories that I'll have will last forever, and to be able to give back and support the center and the challenge made it even more special. So
yeah,
amazing.
All right, Travis, thank you so much.
See you very soon. Thanks, mate.
All right, we'll see you.
Lee, what a legend. Amazing to have him as a part of the show today. And I look forward to many more conversations with him. And we'll bring you more of these challenge conversations next week. So join us again, and all the best. Go and double that donation today. Take care.